Hi there, this is Catherine with Enfolded Heart Music. In this video, what I would like to do is to illustrate two different structures of lyres that are available. I have a rather unique and for me, quite a rare opportunity where I have two almost identical lyres that are in two different structures of build. So we have one that is a solid body lyre and the other which is a hollow body or acoustic lyre. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to make this video is I'm not going to have both of these for very long, and they are both made by Brandon John Luthiery, and they're made of the same type of wood and have the same number of strings, so there's a lot that is the same about them, which makes the one major difference between them be the one thing that we can focus on. So what I'd like to do is to walk through the differences in structure between these two, just outline those briefly, and then to do a little bit of a sound test for you. This is intended for anyone, very generally speaking, even if you're not planning or hoping to buy a Brandon John lyre. These are two different forms that a lot of lyres take, and so I know a lot of people, myself included, didn't have a chance to actually try a lyre before buying it, and so these sorts of videos are very helpful. I know there's other videos that compare lots of different lyres, and those are really, really great. I recommend those all the time. But because I have two that are so similar in material, they're the same person who built them, all of that, I thought it was kind of a unique opportunity to help someone who is trying to discern which of the two structures to purchase if you're buying a lyre. This was a nice way to compare them. So, first, let's just go through the structure and what's the difference between the two. So I'm gonna put the acoustic one down. I'm sort of terrified I'm gonna drop one of them, so I'm just gonna hold one at a time. This is the one. This is a solid body lyre. This is the one I've been using for the Butterfly Dream album. Now, the last song that hopefully will come out in the next week or two, I'm going to use the acoustic one, just sort of for fun, and also because it's the one that I'll be using from here on out. But this is a solid body one. Again, this is one I've been using for Butterfly Dream, and I don't touch the any post-processing, so I don't add any acoustic stuff, any extra reverb, any of that. I've turned the volume up so you can hear it, but other than that, I haven't touched it. So if you're curious what the solid body, and particularly the Brandon John solid body lyre sounds like, that's a pretty good sample of it. It's not perfect because microphones always change the sound, but it's probably as close as you're going to get. So just as a side note. So what makes this a solid body? It is all one piece, and it doesn't have a sound box, is the short end of it. This is made of cherry wood. It is a 19-string lyre. And basically what all these solid body lyres do is that rather than having a sound box, what they do is there's a concave section of the wood that's cut out in the back. Yeah, you can see it. There's kind of you can see the sort of shaded part right there. And I think you can just see in the video that it's this part right here is farther back. It is in line with the back of the instrument. This is all on one plane. But here on the front, this part right here dips back. And so this area is the place where when you hit the string, right, it makes the string vibrate and it communicates those directly into the wood, and then it amplifies and then sort of pushes out and sort of expresses those sound waves to the audience or to yourself, the player, through this indention right here in the wood. That's the only thing that pushes it out forward, as far as I'm aware of. That's sort of the main section of that. Of course, for any further questions about how a lyre is constructed and the different aspects of that, Brandon would certainly be the person to ask about that. He's really, really great about answering questions. So just as an aside, if you're interested in learning more about it, then he's a great person to reach out to for those sorts of things. So that's the solid body. One thing that I noticed when I first received this is that the strings were a little bit tighter strung. Not a whole bunch, but what I was coming from, which was a completely different kind of lyre. It was a mass-produced one, still, steel strings and all of that, but it did have a bridge and it had the acoustic structure of that. So when I came to this one, I noticed that it was a little bit tighter, so that was something I had to get used to. So that's the solid body one. Let me switch out for a second. now we have the acoustic one, and let me bring up both of them. Oops. One thing that you'll notice if we're just looking side by side is that the acoustic one is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit taller, a little bit wider. It's also a bit thicker than the solid body one, and so it's a little bit heavier than that. Again, not a whole lot, but a little bit. For me personally, I find that actually much easier to hold. It's just got more surface area right here to put on my leg. It's got a little bit more weight to hold it steady, and it's a little bit taller, so I don't find myself leaning over as much. Again, not a huge difference, not a make or break kind of thing, but something that for me was kind of nice to experience when I received this one. What makes this different than the other one? Well, most of it you can probably observe just even looking at it right now. So it is also made of cherry wood. This part is lighter right now because, sort of a fun fact, that cherry wood darkens as it's exposed to light. So the other one's a little bit darker because I've had it outside a little bit or have been playing near a window, those sorts of things. So this is cherry wood. It's also 19 strings, steel strings. The front part right here of the sound box is made of beech wood, and the bridge is made of maple wood, just in case you're wanting to know. So not everything is cherry wood, but the sort of bulk of it is cherry wood. So again, it's very comparable. Okay, so you can see that it does have a bridge, unlike the other one, which does not have a bridge. And so the strings go over that, and it's through the bridge that the vibrations are then communicated to the sounding part of the instrument. And of course, this one has a sound box, which the other one did not have. We also have 2 sound holes to help project that sound outwards and give the instrument, it sort of works as a pump. It sort of is able to pump the air out. But the reason that this is going to give you more of an acoustic sound, that's why it's called an acoustic lyre as well as a hollow lyre, is because the sound vibrations are going to be kind of banging around inside of the box for a lot longer and produce a different kind of sound before they come out compared to the solid body. So let me pull them back out again together. Okay, so why would you get one versus the other? In a lot of ways, from my very limited perspective, but from playing both, there's a couple of reasons why a person might prefer one versus the other. I'm sure there are other reasons, and you're welcome to throw that out there in the comments for other people if you think it's helpful for others. But what comes to mind for me is a couple of things. Is that first is the solid body one is going to be quieter than the acoustic body one. Again, that's because the sound waves in the acoustic one are going to be moving around in the box a lot more before they come out, so they get louder as they bump around in there. It's got more space to make noise, for lack of better words. So it's going to be a bit louder. So if you are someone who maybe you live in a very small apartment that has paper-thin walls and you don't want to bother your neighbor, a quieter one would be better for you. Maybe you take your instrument and you go and play at hospitals or nursing homes, or you play for small children, and something quieter would be more fitting for that environment. You might prefer a solid body lyre. On the other hand, if you are wanting to record, or if you're wanting to play for others more often than not, an acoustic one is going to help with that volume. So those are some thoughts on, okay, in what environment and for what purposes am I going to be using my lyre? So volume is one thing to consider. Hopefully you'll be able to hear that pretty well on the testing. When I did the testing earlier, you could hear it pretty well, so I hope it picks up. The other big difference, probably I'd say the second big difference in regards to sound, in addition to volume, would be the reverberation. Now, this is a pro and a con on each of these. So, on each one of these. So, let's start with the acoustic. With the acoustic one, you're going to have much more reverb compared to the solid body one. This is going to give, especially your lower notes, a bit more what's the word I'm looking for? Tonal fullness, kind of fullness, and body. That's the word I was looking for. Body to the notes. And so again, that contributes to volume, but more than just volume, just the sound of the note and the fullness of it. The note's going to last much longer. That's part of it going over the bridge, is it will vibrate for a longer period of time, and that can add a kind of fullness to your sound that's very nice. The drawback to it is that if you are playing it too hard, you're going to end up having a muddled sound. It would be sort of the equivalent, for those of you who are at all familiar with the piano and the pedal, the way that the pedal works, it lifts up the dampers. So you hit a note, that note activates a hammer to hit the string. The string vibrates, and insofar as you have the note down, the key down, the damper does not come and stop that vibration. If you have the pedal down, even if you let go of the key, the dampers are still up, and so it will vibrate until it naturally stops. Well, we don't have a pedal with the lyre, and so it would be like if you never dampened, if you just held up the pedal the entire time. If you ever played a piano and just held the pedal up, especially on your bass notes, it's going to sound like you just sort of mushed things together a bit too much. So if you're playing it too strongly on the acoustic one, you're going to end up with that kind of sound. Of course, you can also, and I would recommend this, at least in certain places and certain songs, is you may need to use your hand to dampen the note in the first place. So for example, if I'm wanting to play a G chord and then an A chord and then a G chord pretty soon, pretty fast after each other, I may need to dampen the A chord before going back to the G, or vice versa. Otherwise, it's going to keep ringing and it's going to make a sound that's not all that beautiful. So I think that really just takes practice to getting used to. It's taken me a bit of time to get used to, and it still is, because I was so used to this one, which I'll explain in a moment. So more volume, greater reverberation, greater for a recording or for playing for other people, larger fullness to the sound in general, but a danger of muddling together if you are playing it in a way that is too strong, especially on that left hand. Okay, to switch, you probably can kind of imagine, I'm going to put this down now, for the solid body one, you kind of have the opposite tendencies to it. So like I said earlier, it's quieter, and it has less reverberation, so the body of the notes is not quite as full. It doesn't sound anemic by any means, but it's not quite as full as the acoustic. What this means is that you don't have the danger of it muddling together. I mean, I guess technically you kind of do, but not very much. It wasn't ever something that I had to pay closer attention to, rather the opposite. For me, it was important, again, especially in those bass notes with that left hand, to really get a good grip on the string and pull with a kind of purposefulness, instead of just, grazing along it, to really pull that string, not necessarily hard, but purposefully, to get the most full sound that I could. Otherwise, it did sound kind of dinky. And that's not the instrument, that's my own playing. It just didn't have the fullness that I knew it was constructed to have, particularly if I played it with my right hand and it sounded very different than my left hand. I knew it was me. So anyway, so that's something to note about the solid body. So again, less reverberation, a quieter sound, and with that, a need to play with a kind of purposefulness in the opposite direction. So with the acoustic, rather, you want to make sure you're not playing too hard, pulling it too hard. With the solid body, you want to make sure that you're not playing it too timidly or too softly, but with a kind of purposefulness. So that's my general comments about each of those, both the structure and the general sound. Again, these are both made by Brandon John Luthiery. This generally applies to any of the lyres in, either category, either structure. But I'm going to go ahead and compare the two. Let me see my notes. If there's anything else. There is one thing I forgot. Actually, two things I forgot, but I can't remember the second one. Okay, the first one is, this is specific to Brandon John, is with all of his lyres, he does a really wonderful job of leaving so much open space in the back for that left hand to access. What was a nice surprise for me on the acoustic one is that there is an extra, let's see if you can see it here. Okay, there is an extra sort of bend to the instrument, such that I have even more space on this left hand to get down to this F and G and A right there. So that was really nice. I don't know if he did that totally on purpose. I imagine he did, but anyways, either way, it was really nice and feels very nice to play. As a small aside, just for Brandon's instruments in general, this is a new model. This was actually gifted to me, a huge surprise for me, to be honest, and a great gift for me. I was very, very touched by it. But this is something new, so if you haven't seen this before, there's a reason, because it hasn't been available previously. So these are both available on Brandon John's website. He does really great work. I'd highly recommend him. And again, he's great with answering questions. Before I get into the sound test, just I guess in response to any concerns about, well, what kind of music can I play with each of these? In my opinion, you can play the same kind of music on each of these. You're going to get a slightly different sound, and you'll have to play it differently. Again, just in regards to how hard or how soft you're playing the strings. Just like with any instrument that you have, they're going to have particularities to it. I think that's the case with any instrument, just very generally speaking. You got to get to know what it is that you're playing and to cooperate with that, to know how it works and to work with it. So any of the songs that I have played of my own or of others, I could play on either one of these, and I think they sound very, very beautiful. So not to draw too much of a dichotomy between these two, but just to kind of outline a difference. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into what they sound like and the difference between them. Okay, so let's start with the solid body one. I've got the microphone maybe 2 feet away from it, just to give it some space for the sound to actually get away from the instrument and expand a little bit. I think it'll give a better sample than if the microphone is right next to it. I'll play it soft and then hard, or quietly and then loudly, and then I'll switch to the acoustic. And after that, I think I'll go ahead and do just a little bit of some actual songs rather than just chords. At first, I'll just do broken chords. But anyways, both of that will hopefully give you a good idea of the difference between the two. I'll play the exact same thing on both of them, so you've got a nice comparison. So here we go. I'll play this quietly first. We'll do that again loudly. Okay, let me do the more upper octaves of these. Don't have my strap on this one anymore, so we're a little bit tight. That's not where I want to be. Okay. That was quiet. I'll do it more loudly now. Okay, let me go ahead and switch. All right. If you hear any out of tuneness on this one, it's because the strings are still trying to adjust, and it's very cold today. So I've already tuned it, but sometimes it changes faster than you might think. So here we go. We'll do the same thing, starting quietly, and then I'll go loudly again. So here's quiet. Hear that reverb? Okay. Here's louder. It's probably louder than you would play it, but just so you can get a sense of how loud it can go. Oops, caught my nail there a little bit at the end. Okay. This is what I mean by dampen it, is to put your hand to literally stop the vibration of the strings. Okay. Here's the upper octave, softly. And then louder. Okay. Hopefully that's a good sound test, at least for those. Let me, as I was playing, I thought, well, let me illustrate just how long each of these are going to vibrate for. So I'll do just one chord. No, let's do a broken chord. I'll just go all the way up for the C on this one, and then I'll do the same on the other one. So here we go. Here's soft. Okay, only now did it die out on the soft one. And then here's a loud one. Now it's died out. Let me do lower because that actually makes a big difference. Here we'll move to A. So this is the third lowest from the bottom. Soft. Okay, now loud. Okay, let me do that with the other one. So do a C first. Let's do C here. Okay, soft. Now it's died down. Okay. Loud. Now it's died out, and we'll do lower. Again, soft. Okay, and louder. Now it's died out. Okay, that should give you a good idea of how long it'll ring for. And I was trying to pull equally hard on each of these to be, very fair between the two. Again, I wouldn't draw a dichotomy between the two. It's mostly just so you can hear a comparison. So let's do a little bit of songs. Let me do, let's just do a little bit of Butterfly Dream. It got a nice range on these. You'll also hear, because it moves back and forth between two chords on the left hand, you'll see, hopefully be able to hear the difference between the two structures and how you need to work with that left hand so it is big enough or not too big, depending on which one you're playing. So I'll just do a few measures of Butterfly Dream and then maybe do another one. We'll see. Okay. Okay, now I was playing that pretty quiet, although I tend to play the lyre more quietly than not. So just so you know, I wasn't pulling real hard on those strings, but it's maybe a tad quieter than I normally would play it, but not much. Okay, now this one I'm going to have to be careful to not get too muddled on that left hand. We'll see how it goes. And I'm going to put the strap on since it's on here. Okay. I do think I'm gonna do one more, just featuring at the top because they sound pretty similar at the top, and I just want people to be able to hear that. So let's do, you know what, let's not do quite at the top. Let's do Life of a Smile a little bit, because it's more in the mid-range. Might give you a pretty good idea there. Okay. Yeah, all right. Okay, and let me switch back, and then I think that will be the last thing we'll do. Okay. Sorry. Okay, not too bad for no strap. All right. Hopefully that helps give you a little bit better of an understanding of the difference between the two, what they sound like. Of course, the sound is very specific to the Brandon John lyres, but at least between those two, you can get a good idea that might be also applicable for other instruments. Of course, I'll put links to everything down in the description, just as a disclaimer. Brandon did not ask me to do this. He had nothing to do with my decision to do this video. It really is just of service to you because I have them both right now and I won't for very long. Anyways, he has great answers if you have any questions about the structure of lyres and how to pick out different materials or different structures of them. He's a great person to ask about that. If you have any questions about my own preference or my own playing or how I produce certain sounds with different songs, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions for you as I'm able to. And anyways, as always, I hope that it helps you. And best of luck on any of you who are trying to look for a lyre and trying to make a decision between those two. All the lyres I've ever had are great as long as I'm open to learning what they have to offer and working with that. So that'd be my biggest suggestion with anyone, with any lyre that you have, whatever what quality or brand or structure, anything like that. So, all right, God bless, and may the peace of Christ be with you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.